Welcome back to the show. Today we're diving into the grand finale of the Formula One season, the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix 2025. Under the glowing Yas Marina floodlights, the stakes were sky high. The tension was electric, and every team showed up ready to write the final chapter of this year's championship. From shocking strategy calls to wheel-to-wheel drama, we're breaking down all the moments that made the Desert Showdown unforgettable. Buckle up. This is the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix like you've never heard it before. Free practice one. Alright, let's jump into free practice one here in Abu Dhabi. And what a way to open the weekend. Lando Norris wasted absolutely no time. The championship contender topped FP1 with a 124.485, edging out Max Verstappen by just 8 thousandths of a second. 8 thousandths! The title rivals are already throwing punches before qualifying has ever entered the chat. Third place, Charles Leclerc, only a hundredth of Norris, so the top three were practically sharing the same lap time. If FP1 is anything to go by, we're gearing up for an insane final. Now, FP1 was just about the front runners. It was a rookie takeover. 9 rookies hit the track, with Mercedes and Kick Sauber being the only teams to keep their usual lineups. That meant Oscar Piastri set out with McLaren, while McLaren reserve Pato O'Ward jumped in. Over at Red Bull, Yuki Tsunoda handed his car to Arvid Lindblad, the F2 star who is set to debut with Racing Bulls in 2026. Isaac Hadjar kicked things off as the first guy on track, but immediately you could feel the chaos, heavy traffic, hand-waving frustration, and Williams rookie Luke Browning already complaining about his radio on lap 1. Carlos Sainz briefly held P1 early on with a 125.712, fresh off his Qatar podium with Williams, but the time stumbled fast, and Sainz eventually slipped to 9 by the end of the session. The rookies gave us a show too. Ollie Behrman reported a power loss early and was later told there was a leak, eventually forcing Haas to retire his car for the session. Meanwhile, Jack Crawford and Keane Schultz nearly came together at Aston Martin. Rookie hour was chaotic. At the halfway mark, Hadjar looked set for the fastest lap before Verstappen stuck on the soft and fired in a 124.493. George Russell responded slotting into P2 on the C5 tire, Mercedes clearly chasing second in the constructors, and Kimi Antonelli backed that up by going P3 shortly after. Norris had a scary moment at turn 2, a snap on his first soft tire flyer, but still delivered the lap that put him into P2. Then, with 15 minutes to go, he nailed the 124.485. That would hold as the fastest lap time of FP1. We also got some classic Ferrari comedy. Charles Leclerc spun at turn 5 and his brother Arthur down in P18 joked that Charles was doing burnouts for the fans. Brotherhood at the finest. A late radio drama for Verstappen too. He reported something broken everywhere on his RB21, but still managed to keep it on track and stay within a blink of Lando's time. So your top 5 from FP1: Norris, Verstappen, Leclerc, Antonelli, and Hülkenberg. Russell, Bortoleto, Behrman, Sainz, and Colapinto wrapped up the top 10. FP1 was fast, messy, and full of storylines. Exactly what you want heading into a title decider. FP2. Let's move into free practice 2, the twilight session, the one that actually matters for the qualifying and race prep. And once again, Lando Norris laid down the law. The McLaren driver topped FP2 with a rapid 123.083, finishing more than 3 tenths ahead of Max Verstappen and just ahead of George Russell. So yes, Norris ends Friday fastest in both practice sessions. And for Oscar Piastri, it was a slow burn. The Australian was the only title contender to sit out FP1, and after jumping back in for FP2, He ended the day down in 11th. Not ideal, but it's only Friday. The session kicked off at 17 our local time, with setting and the floodlights taking over. Perfect race conditions. Piastri's mechanics were swearing his car minutes before the green light, but once FP2 got going, he hit the track early and trouble-free. The trouble happened somewhere else, right at turn 1. Verstappen almost collected Norris because of a radio mix-up with Giampiero Lambiasio. Max was ending up lap, Lando was starting one, and it got close. "What's this guy doing? I almost crashed," Norris shouted over the radio. The stewards looked into it but decided no further action. Early on, the benchmark was set by rookie sensation Isaac Hadjar with a 124.167 on softs. Behrman was right behind him, but once Verstappen strapped on the red wheel C5, he smashed the time with a 123.446 until Norris fired back with a blazing 123.083 to reclaim the top. Attention then swung to Piastri's first quali simulation, and yeah, it didn't light up the timing screens. He slid into P10 at the time, behind both Mercedes, both Saubers, Behrman, Hadjar, and Charles Leclerc. Williams had a scary moment with Carlos Sainz, who had a huge snap through turns 2 and 3, but saved it beautifully. Meanwhile, Alex Albon dealt with possible engine trouble. Once the soft tire flyers were done, everyone shifted to long-run programs. Norris stayed up front, Verstappen complained about bouncing, and Russell quietly delivered an excellent P3. The real star of FP2 might be Ollie Behrman. He finished a shocking P4 for Haas, and his mid-session radio message said it all. "Mate, the car is insane. I don't know how it's so good." Behind him came the Sauber duo of Nico Hulkenberg and Gabriel Bortoleto, who both looked incredibly strong. Hadjar ended up striking session in P7, followed by Leclerc, Alonso, and Antonelli. That means Norris, Verstappen, and Russell, Behrman, and Hulkenberg were your top 5, with Piastri just missing out on the top 10. Behind them, Stroll in 12th, Sainz and Albon bookending Hamilton, then Ocon, Tsunoda, Lawson, and the Alpine pair closing out the order. With FP1 and FP2 in the books, the teams head into Saturday knowing one thing: Lando Norris looked sensational. Free practice 3. Alright, let's wrap up Saturday morning with free practice 3, the final chance for teams to dial in their cars before qualifying. And this time it wasn't Norris or Verstappen on top, it was George Russell. The Mercedes driver delivered a stunning late flyer, a 123.334, beating Lando Norris by just 4 thousandths of a second. 4 thousandths. This qualifying session is going to be wild. Norris had been sitting comfortable at the top after dropping a 123.338, but Russell found that tiny slice of pace right at the end. Max Verstappen slid into P3, only a tenth of Russell, with Fernando Alonso and Oscar Piastri completing the top 5 in another ultra-tight session. The hours started quietly. Most drivers stayed in the garage, with Alonso and Stroll doing their usual tire scrubbing laps. Alpine, desperate after a miserable Friday, sent Gasly and Colapinto out early to try and solve the issue that left them languishing at the bottom of FP2. Norris was the first to put down a representative time of 124.728, slow by FP1 and FP2 standards, but the track was still coming to life. Piastri initially struggled, sitting out 4 tenths of his teammates and finding rear instability. Then came drama with Yuki Tsunoda, who failed to move aside and forced Norris into evasive action. Tsunoda threw up a hand in apology, and the stewards made note of the incident. As the track got busier, Ollie Behrman immediately proved his FP2 pace wasn't a fluke. His first lap was just 8 thousandths of Norris. Verstappen then jumped to P1 before Lance Stroll surprised everyone by pushing his Aston Martin into P2 with a rapid soft tyre lap. But the biggest moment of FP3 came from Lewis Hamilton. For turn 9 high-speed big commitment, the Ferrari snapped. Hamilton spun violently and smashed into the barriers. Thankfully he walked away unhurt, but his radio told story something buckled at the front and snapped the rear. Ferrari now heads into qualifying on the back foot. The red flag wiped out valuable track time, so when the pit lane reopened, the scramble was real. Piastri came out swinging, jumping from P18 to P1 with a lap half a second clear of Verstappen, but Norris answered immediately with a 1:23.338, reclaiming the top spot with a monster final sector that was 3 tenths quicker than Piastri. The chaos didn't stop there. Kimi Antonelli was released into the path of Tsunoda in the pit lane, clipping the Red Bull and breaking his own wing. Mercedes will not be happy reviewing that one. And then came George Russell's golden lap. Soft tires, clean track, no mistakes. He put it all together to take P1 in the final minutes, just ahead of Norris and Verstappen, with Alonso and Piastri right behind. The rest of the top 10: Esteban Ocon P6, Behrman in P7, Charles Leclerc P8, Antonelli P9, and Alex Albon rounding out at P10. The whole top half of the grid was covered by just 0.3 seconds. Absolutely nothing in it. FP3 leaves us with one clear message: Mercedes has real pace, Norris looks razor sharp, Verstappen is lurking, and Ferrari has a mountain to climb after Hamilton's crash. Next up, qualifying, and it might be the tightest one of the season. Qualifying. Alright, buckle up, because that was one of the most intense qualifying sessions we've had all season. Under the Yas Marina floodlights, Max Verstappen delivered a masterclass when it mattered most. The reigning champion put down a blistering 1:22.207 to take pole for the title-deciding Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, beating Lando Norris by 0.2 and Oscar Piastri by just a touch more. The front row, Verstappen versus Norris. The second row, Piastri versus Russell. Everything is perfectly lined up for absolutely chaos on Sunday. Q1. Piastri strikes first, Hamilton out again. Q1 started with drama before the real drama even began. Lewis Hamilton, coming off his huge FP3 crash, rolled out early on mediums for what was basically a shakedown run, but it didn't help. Once the soft runners cleaned up the track, the times plummeted. George Russell's 1:23.247 led early, but the margins were insane. Behrman only 7 thousandths behind, and Piastri 1 thousandth behind the Haas. Piastri then threw down a monster lap of a 1:22.605, and suddenly he was 2 tenths clear of Verstappen and everyone else. But the heartbreak Lewis Hamilton again eliminated in Q1, P16, back-to-back exits in the final weekend of the year. Behind him, Albon, Hülkenberg, and the Alpine pair of Gasly and Colapinto. For a title decider, the session was already wild. Q2, Russell back on top, Antonelli out. Into Q2, Verstappen went out early for a calm banker lap. Used tires, no stress, but George Russell was the one stealing the spotlight. A 1:22.730 put him top of the pile, ahead of Verstappen by 200ths and Norris by 700. A legit three-way split of just 700ths of a second. It's almost illegal how tight this field is. Piastri and Alonso were safe in fourth and fifth, but the bottom five was a shocker. Antonelli, Behrman, Lawson, Sainz, and Stroll all at risk. On the final runs, Bortoleto rocked up to P4, Ocon just scrapped into P9, Hadjar made it through, but Antonelli fell out in P14, Behrman missed by one spot, and Sainz could only manage P12. The session ends with Tsunoda also sneaking into the top 10 in his final ever Red Bull qualifying. Q3, Verstappen unleashes, Norris and Piastri gave chase. Then came Q3, the moment everyone's been waiting for. Tsunoda was the first on track, but Verstappen immediately stole the show with a 122.295. And here's the twist. Tsunoda played the perfect team game, giving Verstappen a tow in his last qualifying for Red Bull. Peak loyalty, peak drama. Piastri was closest after the first runs, 3 tenths back with Norris half a second off, and the Ferrari and Mercedes slotting in behind. Before the final laps, Russell asked if he could get behind Verstappen for a tow. A little copy and paste strategy, but it didn't materialize. And at McLaren, you could feel the tension. Both drivers were in striking distance, but they needed perfection. And then Max went even faster, a 122.207. Absolutely ruthless. Piastri went quicker too, just 2 tenths off, but it wasn't enough. Norris, however, found the lap he needed, slotting into second place, 2 tenths behind Max. So the title rivals lined up on the front row. Piastri started right behind them in P3, Russell P4, Leclerc P5, and then the Aston of Alonso in P6. The surprise stars are Gabriel Bortoleto in 7, Esteban Ocon in 8, Isaac Hadjar in 9, and Tsunoda in his Red Bull Farewell in 10th. Tomorrow the championship gets decided. Max Verstappen starts from pole with 2 tenths of a second of confidence behind him. Lando Norris starts alongside him with nothing to lose. Oscar Piastri will be lurking directly behind both, ready to strike. This is the tightest, most unpredictable championship final we've had in years, and qualifying just poured gasoline on the fire. Race. What a final! The 2025 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix delivered tension, drama, and a new world champion. Lando Norris, who clinched his first F1 title with a calm, calculated third place finish behind race winner Max Verstappen and Oscar Piastri. The equation for Norris was simple but brutal: finish on the podium, and the title was his. No matter what Verstappen or Piastri did, and under the Yas Marina lights, he absorbed absolutely everything thrown at him. The race exploded into life right from lights out. Verstappen held to lead into turn 1, but the real shock came half a lap later when Oscar Piastri sent a sensational move around outside of Norris at turn 9. A moment that must have sent a chill through the entire McLaren garage. Suddenly, Norris wasn't just fighting for the race, he was defending his championship hopes from Leclerc and Alonso behind. Through traffic, through tire strategy, chaos, and through an incredible aggressive Yuki Tsunoda, who earned himself a penalty after nearly forcing Norris off the track, Lando kept refocusing and rebuilding. The crucial moment, the stewards deciding no further action on Norris' overtake on Tsunoda. That was the breeze McLaren needed. Up front, Verstappen did exactly what he had to do: win. The Dutchman drove flawlessly, leading Piastri home by 12 seconds and doing everything in his power to steal the title, but with Norris holding a safe gap to Leclerc in the closing laps. The arrhythmic final fell his way, and when Norris crossed the line in P3, arm shaking, voice cracking, he officially became the 2025 Formula One world champion, beating Verstappen by just 2 points in one of the tightest title fights of the modern era. He celebra- celebrated with a set of donuts down the main straight before climbing onto his McLaren, overwhelmed as the reality hits. He knows from Lionel Norris. Oh God, I've not cried in a while. It feels amazing. I want to thank McLaren, my parents, I'm not crying. It's been a long year, but we did it. History made, a new champion crowned, and a rivalry that's only going to get fiercer in 2026. The Drivers' Championship, Lando Norris 423 points, Max Verstappen with 421 points, Oscar Piastri with 410, George Russell 319, and Charles Leclerc with 242. The Constructors' Championship, McLaren with 833, Mercedes 469, Red Bull 451, Ferrari 398, and Williams 137. And that's a wrap on the 2025 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, and what a way to end the season. Lando Norris has written his name into the history books, claiming his first F1 World Championship in a nail-biting final, while Max Verstappen and Oscar Piastri put on a masterclass of racing. From the heights of FP1 to the drama of qualifying and the tense edge of your seat race, this weekend had it all: strategies, speed, spinouts, penalties, and of course, a new champion. As the lights go out on the Yas Marina for one last time this season, we celebrated Norris' incredible journey, McLaren's strong performances, and the fierce rivalries that will surely carry into 2026. Thanks for tuning in, F1 fans. We'll see you next season on the grid for more speed, more drama, and more unforgettable moments. Until then, keep your engines running and your passion for racing alive. Bye. See you next season in 2026.